Hey, this is Will Putney from Better Lovers and Fit for an Autopsy, and you're listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we are back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have Emma Boster, vocalist of Dying Wish. Dying Wish first got on my radar with Emma's appearance on Knocked Loose's 2019 LP, A Different Shade of Blue. And they've come a long way since. They signed with Sharptone Records just before the pandemic, and the following year released their debut LP, Fragments of a Bitter Memory. We talked to Emma about Dying Wish's recent tour with Poppy, the whole history of Dying Wish, prepping for shows, and their brand new LP, Flesh Stays Together. It's a great conversation, and it's coming up shortly. But first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a main channel with full video episodes and a clips channel with clips from select episodes. We have shirts for sale at our store at Death Wish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. And you can follow us on social media at New Scene Pod. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. There's a lot of great releases out from Iodine Recordings right now. Pick up Stretch Armstrong's Free at Last. That's the 20th anniversary reissue. This is on vinyl for the first time ever. Pick up Feel the Teeth from the Casket Lottery. It's a must-listen LP and one of my favorites of the year. Pick up Life on the Moon by Modern Life is War. That's the highly anticipated new LP from Modern Life is War. Pick up Life in Parallel from Hundreds of AU. That's another one of my favorite records of the year. And if you're into that classic screamo post-hardcore sound, you're going to love it. I just listened to it again this past weekend. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll find out about everything first. And you can follow the label on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. And say hello to our sponsor for the month of November, Evil Greed. In addition to their online store, Evil Greed offers tour merch handling, and logistics services for tons of bands. They also offer merch and distribution solutions for bands and record labels in Europe and the UK. Evil Greed has a carefully selected roster of artists and labels in their online store. They offer very reasonable worldwide shipping rates specifically to the UK and the USA. Make sure you head to evilgreed.com, check out the featured music section, the featured merch section. They've got new merch, new music, pre-orders, Evil Greed exclusives, and staff picks. And all these lists are updated weekly with new and exclusive items. Sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss a thing. And you can follow them on Instagram at evil_greed. And now we are going to speak to Emma Boster of Dying Wish. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Emma Boster. Emma, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, Emma, it's great to have you here. You know, you're up to a lot. I've seen your tour schedule for the rest of the year, and you're basically going to be out on the road for the rest of the year. A lot of great tours with a lot of great bands, and Dying Wish is doing great things. We've got Flesh Stays Together coming out next week, and myself and a bunch of other people are very excited about that. And I want to talk to you about all of that and more, Emma. But first, I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
Oh, I am good. I just celebrated my 31st birthday a few days ago, and my back is feeling it a little bit. But besides that, I'm happy to be here. We're playing a house show in Milwaukee tonight, which is awesome. And then we play Louder Than Life tomorrow. So the dichotomy between the two is really insane, but fun. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. And happy birthday. Yeah, you know, I didn't really start experiencing bad back problems until this year, and I'm 43 now. So I hope that doesn't happen to you.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're way ahead of me on that one. Yeah. Or I guess I'm ahead of you, but.
So you're playing a house show. What's the deal with it? Like, do you expect it to be mobbed?
Yeah. So we're on tour with Poppy right now, and we have a few like record release shows, that we routed around that and the festivals that we're doing. So we wanted to make them like really exciting underplays. JJ's Bar and Grill being one of them, and that's a basement by the promoter named JJ. It's like in his house, and we played a small bar in Toronto a couple days ago, and we did a basement in Columbus, and then we're doing a show at Program as well. So we're just doing some exciting small things to kind of hype up the new record, and also just for the hell of it.
Yeah, those are really cool. I like when bands do those, like a bigger, more popular band, and they'll do those smaller one-off shows. Do you book those ahead of time, or have you been booking them while on this tour? How has it worked with these last few and the ones that are coming up?
We did them kind of last minute. So I think the show was announced like maybe 3 weeks ago. And it sold out like within a day, which was cool. It was definitely like kind of like a last minute thing.
Yeah, I think it's important to do stuff like that just to stay in touch with reality, right? You don't want to like end up on a bus and then just forget how to live and forget that people exist and all that stuff.
Yeah. And like also, like if you can't just throw your gear on the stage and play your songs, then, to me, it loses the life of it a little bit. So it's exciting to, do these things where we just like bare bones, a couple PA speakers on a stick and go with it.
Exactly. Where are you right now? Are you in Minnesota?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yeah. Close.
Oh, you're in Milwaukee. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to be there. I'm going to be there in a few days for work, and I don't want to go. But hey, you're there for a more fun reason.
If it makes you feel better, the weather it's pretty nice. It's not too miserable hot. So
I like that. So we were going to talk yesterday, and then we didn't because you were on vocal rest. And my first question was going to be, you can do a podcast like right before you go on stage. I've done that before where people talk to me in the van or before a show before they go on stage. And I just wonder, like, how the hell do you do that? Do you do that? Can you do that?
I have, yeah. I try not to. Actually, yesterday, I felt like I was getting sick, and we have 4 shows in a row, so I really wanted to like nip it in the bud. So I just spent all day yesterday napping, and then I went to a movie. And just like loaded up with medicine and just like kept it very chill. But I woke up today feeling a lot better. I can usually talk like before a show, no problem. It's after the show that really gets to me. So I've been trying to like make it a point to, not linger around the crowd too much post show. Because that's also like how I get sick on tour, and when I get sick, I'm done for. So try to protect my voice as much as I can. But before a show, it's not too big of a deal.
I see. So before a show, you can talk. After the show, will you come out and say hi at all, or just like nod at people at the merch booth? Do you do any of that?
On this run, a little bit. I haven't been going out really with the Poppy crowd just because they're not really our fans. They're like her fans, and we have to win them over. And I've found that when I interact with like someone else's fans and they're new to me, they don't really treat me like a person. I don't know how to explain it. It's different when, it's our fans, like on our headlining show, like they get it and they, treat me with a little bit more respect. So we're doing a headlining tour at the end of the year. We do our own merch. And so I will be probably out before the show happens, but after the show, I'll probably dip and go backstage just to like, preserve my voice and warm down. But like, I want to make sure that, I meet people that are there to see us.
Yeah, I didn't realize just how much work it takes to maintain your voice for shows in general or multiple shows in a tour like you're doing. Because, when I was young and I would tour with my friends' bands, we would just do it. Everyone's 24 years old. You yell night after night. Everything's fine. It seems like nothing interrupts it. We laugh, we joke, we talk. There's like no preparation. But now at this age, there's a lot of preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just like, to me, it's like going to the gym, When I was a kid, I used to, be able to go to the gym or play a sport without warming up or like stretching or any of that. And like, I used to be able to, sing or play shows without warming up, but I can't do it anymore. I'm too old. I feel like the throat is just, it's like a hamstring or a bicep in a way. You have to, warm it up and stretch it out and protect it.
Exactly. So did you grow up in Portland?
I grew up in Oregon, so we kind of bounced around a bit. I was born in Bend, and then my mom, we moved when I was 5 because my mom went to Southern Oregon University, and we lived in Southern Oregon until I was 13. And then I moved to the Portland area when I was 13. So I lived in Portland for about 15 years.
How did you like growing up there? How was it for you?
Amazing. I love Oregon. It'll always be my home. And I think it's a great place, it's kind of a little bit of a bubble when it comes to politics and stuff like that. And, so I grew up in a very kind of granola hippie gay environment. And that is probably largely responsible for the person that I am today. But I loved growing up out there. It was awesome.
Yeah, so, reading about you and the band, it seems like you're pretty outspoken on a number of things and definitely on the right side of things. Did that come from your upbringing? Did it come from this music and the scene at all? Because I grew up in a predominantly white, I would say mostly Republican type area, and I would say that's where things leaned before I even understood Democrats, Republicans, or how they're both bullshit and all that stuff. And then I got into this music, and then I heard different ways of thinking, and then I got on Twitter, and then I saw that ideologies outside of all the bullshit exist and that real people can have real conversations. So it was like a really long road to figuring out who I am and what I believe. How about for you?
Yeah, I think I was pretty privileged to grow up raised by my mom, who was a single mom. Very progressive. Same with my grandma, very progressive. Very open-minded, but, very loving and accepting of all people. So I've always felt that way and thought that way. I didn't grow up going to church. I was raised as, in a godless family, I guess you could say. So yeah, I think that, it's some of I guess I felt culture shocked a lot when I started to travel, and now I live in the South. So there's a little bit of a culture shock there. But I would say I grew up pretty privileged. I didn't have to unlearn a lot of things. I mean, obviously we all do.
You just reminded me, yeah, we were Catholic too. So there was that whole burden as well, having to go to church every week. Going to Catholic school, being indoctrinated with that, unlearning that. It was a lot. It's a lot to grow up with.
Totally, I'm sure, yeah.
How about your relationship with music? Is it something you've always been interested in?
Yeah. That was the second part of your question. When I started going to shows, so I moved to Portland in 2007. And started going to shows once I moved to Portland, because before, when I lived in Southern Oregon, there wasn't much of a scene at all, or definitely not one that I had access to as a young person. But yeah, once I started going to shows in Portland, one of the core spaces for me growing up was an anarchist bookstore called Laughing Horse that used to throw shows. And so that's kind of what I grew up in the hardcore scene. And so that was very influential, on my, upbringing as well. But yeah, I mean, I come from a musical family, not necessarily anyone that ever did music for a living, but people who are very passionate about it. So it's definitely been something that has always been a part of me, and my family has always supported. And I think they kind of knew that was what I was going to do from a young age.
Nice. Is that what you had in mind primarily? I want to be in a band, I want to perform in a band. Is that what you were thinking about primarily?
I don't think I really thought that until I was in my 20s. I don't ever really think that I thought it was possible for me to front a band. I was a member of the hardcore community and I would go to shows, but to me, that was my place. I never really had a lot of examples of women doing it. And so I don't think it was until, about a decade ago when I started to really like see more people that looked like me represented on stages within heavy music. And I think that's when it kind of clicked for me. But before that, I've always been a singer. And so I thought, maybe I used to really want to do American Idol when I was younger. I'm so glad I didn't. But before, kind of when reality hit as a young adult, I thought my first passion was maybe going to University of Oregon for like political sciences or something like that. And then once I realized that college was just never in the cards for me, I just kind of started like booking shows and started a band, and it just kind of turned out to what it was. I could have ended up doing anything else in the industry, but I'm glad it's this.
Okay. You were talking about vocal training, and you said you went full-time into choir and then it cut off.
Okay, yes. I played sports when I was younger. I played soccer and basketball, but I went full-time into choir. I did like state competition choir, and then I did like an a cappella jazz choir. So I even lettered in choir as a kid in school. So that was like my main focus. But yeah, I think once I left high school, I didn't really pursue college at all. And so like that, kind of community and that practice for me was just non-existent at that point. So yeah, it took another, I don't know, maybe 5 years for me to get back into music after, but and that's when I started my first band.
What kind of band was it?
So it was a hardcore band. I would say it was our first band. We didn't really know. It was my first band anyways. We didn't really know what we wanted to sound like. Like there was like disembodied riffs, but then also like I didn't know how to scream. So it was like my vocals were like almost very Riot Girl style, and none of it made sense, and it was terrible. But everyone has to start somewhere. So
how did you find this music? How did you discover it? And was it hardcore that grabbed you? Was it hardcore type and heavy music specifically?
It started with like metalcore, honestly, and like scene music, to be honest with you. I discovered this like heavy music when I lived in Southern Oregon still, and I found it on MySpace. Kind of. It was like some of my peers were like listening to like Slayer and Children of Bodom and like Black Sabbath. Obviously I grew up listening to stuff like that, like the classics, but more of like the niche underground stuff I found on MySpace when I was just like a 12-year-old kid, like the Bring Me the Horizons and the A Day to Remembers and the Devil Wears Prada, and then that went into like the Ghost Inside and For the Fallen Dreams, and then that goes into it gets more and more specific, like the Terrors and stuff like that. And so it just kind of evolved into hardcore as I went.
Yeah, you mentioned that you didn't really see a lot of diversity in the scene until about 10 years ago. When you first started going to shows, was it like that? Like, was there not a ton of diversity? Was there not a ton of women? Because I started going to shows in 98, I think, and there's only 4-5 bands I can think of that had a woman fronting them or a woman even in the band. And it was just like, it was really, really bad attitudes and really, I don't know, a lot of bad stuff like you can imagine back then. Like, what was it like for you when you first started going to shows?
Yeah, I mean, the terms coat rack existed when I started going to shows. People just kind of assumed that if you were there, it was because you were dating somebody that brought you along. And, there were not a lot of us girls. I could probably count on one or two hands, on average, whatever show we went to, how many other girls were there. But yeah, I mean, that just like slowly but surely started to change. And I feel like it happened pretty quickly. I feel like hardcore was definitely setting the example. after a minute of like what kind of representation could be happening on our stages.
Yeah, I feel like 2010 was a turning point for a lot of things. I think about a lot of things like pre-2010 and post-2010, and I think diversity and just people other than white guys in bands, you would see it a lot more after 2010.
That's real, yeah, absolutely.
So you start this first band. Around how old were you when that was going on?
20, 21.
Okay. And are you done with college at this point? Like you're not doing that anymore?
Oh, I did one semester of community college and I said, this isn't for me. I'm going to join the workforce. So I did.
Yeah. What did you do? Like, yeah, I tried to go to college. It didn't work. I failed out. And then I started going on tours with friends' bands. And then I just worked. Like I got office jobs and worked and eventually found a career. What did you do?
Well, I had jobs here and there. I kind of like bounced around for a while. And then I started working at Vans when I was, I think, 19. And I started as like a seasonal sales associate and I worked for the company for like almost 5 years as I worked my way up to assistant manager. I was an interim management manager at one point. And that was like the first time I kind of like really stepped into a leadership role. And simultaneously, I'm booking hardcore shows in Portland. So, I was kind of doing that. At one point, I also was working at Dutch Bros. And so I had like, 2 jobs and then was in my first band. And after a while, I made some connections and I started working at a venue. And so I went from doing stagehand and box office to being a production manager and like a talent buyer. And then, so I was doing all of that. Dying Wish was starting and becoming a thing. And then the pandemic happened. And obviously I worked in live music, so I lost my job. But yeah, after that, basically that was when the pandemic ended and we kind of started coming back to shows. I just went full time with Dying Wish, basically.
Nice. So how much experience did you have in bands before Dying Wish? Were you in a lot? Did you do any touring?
So my first band was with Pedro and Jeff, who are in Dying Wish. And, we did 2 tours. I think we did a Western Canada run. And then we did a run down to Texas. And then we were like, this band sucks. we don't want to play these songs anymore. So let's start a new band. And that's basically what Dying Wish is now.
Yeah. What didn't you like about the old band and what did you want to change moving into Dying Wish?
I think that it just felt like to be honest, like kind of like I was embarrassed by it just because it was like our first band. And then, after we were in a band for like a year, I was like, I don't want to play these songs anymore. I don't want to have these songs attached to, my name or anything like so. And also we wanted to be a metalcore band. Like we wanted to, really kind of hone in on like the throwback sound at the time. And we weren't doing that in the other band. It was more of just like a hardcore sound. And so we were like, let's just drop it. I also hated the name. So I was like, we'll just drop it. And then we'll just like all of us start a new band. And now we are in Dying Wish. And it's been 8 years now since we put out an EP, maybe 7 years since we put out our demo. But yeah.
So Dying Wish is together. Did it come together pretty quickly? Was everybody pretty seasoned? Because even the earliest Dying Wish recordings I've heard, like everybody sounds really locked in. Like everything sounds pretty professional and pretty good. It doesn't sound like, this hardcore band putting out their first demo and playing for the first time.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, we didn't really know what we were doing, to be honest, but I'm glad that it came off that way that we did. I think, the demo, we did that one song, Bound by Contrition. People still want us to play it to this day. It's the longest, most agonizing, boring breakdown at the end of the song, but I get it. And then I think by the time we put out the split with Serration, that was when it was like, oh, okay, like this clicks, like we know what we are as a band. And, kind of just like went from there. Like we knew what our mission statement was.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read that you have pop influences and then the metalcore influences. I've heard Kill Switch Engage mentioned, who I love. Like, I don't listen to a lot of anthemic metalcore like that, but Kill Switch Engage has always really done it for me and still does. Who are some of your influences coming into Dying Wish?
Yeah, I mean, we have been for years trying to create our version of End of Heartache. And I just don't know if we've ever been able to really nail it. And so, on this new record, I think we were just like, let's separate ourselves from that a little bit and just try to do something new and more genuine to, us, and not just like, hey, we're going to make a song that sounds like this. But influences, I mean, At the Gates is a huge one for us. And then there's like more like a deathcore influences, like Black Dahlia, stuff like that. I would say, our drummer's favorite band is As I Lay Dying, and, the band is not what it used to be, but, the first few records are really great. And so stuff like that was definitely more of our influence. But I think, lately my like influences have been like very heavy on like Lamb of God, and then also more pop vocalists like Ethel Cain isn't necessarily pop, but stuff like that, Haley Williams, and the Chelsea Wolves, and kind of the more of like the gothy sounds.
When you learned how to scream, did you ever take lessons or anything like that, or did you just figure out how to do it through trial and error?
Oh man, lots of error. I figured it out eventually, but I did. I think when we came back from the pandemic, we started touring, full US tours, which I had never done before. And I did not have the correct technique to keep up with that stamina at all. And so, the first tour we did back, I blew out my voice completely. And I met with Melissa Cross a couple times. She was really great. But I just kind of took a lot of pointers from her and like my peers and stuff, and just kind of like taught myself how to not destroy my voice, I guess. And then before we did Symptoms of Survival, I had a couple lessons with David Benitez from the Extreme Vocal Institute. And yeah, I mean, he is just a master of his craft, and could teach anyone how to scream. And so that was super, super helpful.
Nice. So when you blow your voice out, like, did you blow it out on tour? Was there ever shows where you just couldn't really sing? What do you do in that case?
Panic. It sucks. It really sucks. I mean, it's been years since I've done that. And, even to this day, like, I haven't lost my voice in years, but even to this day, like, that tour haunts me. People will say like, oh, I saw them on this tour and her voice sucks. She's bad live. And it's like, it was years ago, but honestly, it sticks with you, and like, you have to hold yourself accountable to that. So it just made me never, ever want to do it ever again. And so it made me a better singer and a better vocalist, honestly.
Had Dying Wish been touring the whole US before the pandemic hit?
No, we'd only done a couple West Coast tours. We did one tour on the East Coast, and then we did one tour from like Florida up through the South, and that was all that we had done. And we're coming from like a hardcore background, so the standard for like a live setting is more based around the energy than like I would say the performance, as opposed to like the metal world. It's a different standard, you know what I mean, sound wise. So it was definitely a learning curve.
Dying Wish did a collaboration with Brian Garris, the song Enemies in Red. Excellent song. Was that 2019 when that came out?
Yeah, it would have been, because A Different Shade of Blue came out the same year, and we played their Portland show on their headliner, and he came out and did the song with us. So yeah, 2019.
Is that how that collaboration happened? You guys ended up playing together, and did you ask him?
Well, actually, our first show as Dying Wish was a Knocked Loose show in Portland. And so we had known each other, just from being in the hardcore scene even though, they're from Louisville, we're from Portland. We had just known of each other and knew each other. And they asked me to be on A Serpent's Touch I think it was early 2019. So I did it first. And then we had Enemies at the same time. And I just said, do you want to trade? Because we were going to look for somebody to do it, but it would be really awesome if you did. So that's kind of how that came about.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, they got on my Knocked Loose. They got on my radar around 2017, I want to say. Yeah, but when you do that collab in 2019, does that do a lot for the band? Does that give a lot of exposure to your band?
Definitely. I mean, honestly, like nobody cared about us before then. And then after that, it put a lot of eyes on us for sure. Especially they're a hardcore band and they come from our world, but they have a completely different audience now. And so for them to, put on for a small hardcore band like us to all of these people that, have no idea and shouldn't necessarily care about us was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. How do you notice it first? Do you just see plays go way up? Do you get a bunch of new friends? Do labels start emailing you? Like what happens?
Well, I think we got our first like regional support tour for like a big band. We got a Counterparts offer. Probably like right after that happened. And then honestly, just like it sounds so silly, but follower count on Instagram like went way up. And that's like also a pretty good indicator. I'm not sure about streams necessarily, but I think for a while, the song that I was on their record was definitely one of the highest streaming songs for their release, which was cool.
That's got to feel good, right? I'd be like, look, I'm one of the highest streamed. Look at that.
I mean, I did go buy it on CD at Target when it came out, and I was like to the cashier, look, that's my name right there. I'm on the CD. No, it's cool. I mean, obviously all of the credit is owed to them, but it was cool to be a part of it. Yeah,
it's always nice to collab with great bands like that in any way, whether it's playing a show or guesting or anything like that. It's just an extra bonus on top of already getting to play music, which is the most fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So the pandemic rolls around. Did the band get affected a lot? Did you have to cancel tours? I mean, did any forward momentum get halted? What was going on with you guys?
Well, we just signed to Sharptone during like literally the beginning of the pandemic. We were like, is this still going to happen? And they were like, yeah, for sure. We were supposed to go on a tour with Misery Signals and Sanction. I think that was the only thing that didn't happen. But what did happen was it allowed us a lot of time after we signed to a label to write our first record. So that was cool. It gave us a lot of runway to really just kind of like make sure that we were going to hit the ground running.
How does Dying Wish... All right, let me ask this first. When you're writing that debut LP, what do you do? Are you getting together? Are you demoing and sending files back and forth? How did you do it?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think I showed up to the studio very prepared at all. I think I wrote most of the lyrics in studio, just because I didn't know what to expect. In hindsight, I probably should have been more prepared, but honestly, I kind of do every record that way now, and I know that I can. So, I like prepare things, but I don't come with like full songs done necessarily, just because I write so much better in the studio headspace. But I think we were a little prepared, but we were in a studio during lockdown for 6 weeks together. So, that was plenty of time for us to get it together.
Wow. So you'll write most of the lyrics in the studio.
Yeah. I mean, I come prepared with, I'm always writing, journaling or like writing down topics for our next release. But I don't think, I don't really apply anything to a song until the song is completely done instrumentally. So, that's usually how I roll.
I like that. See, I think when you do that, I think when you push yourself like that and you get really good results. Me, I wouldn't be able to do it because it would make me too nervous. and I don't think I have enough experience yet. But wow, yeah. But like when you push yourself and you're on the spot like that, like really good things happen. You always hear these old bands say like, "Oh yeah, that's our number one single. We came up with it in 5 seconds in the studio." Like that spontaneity does something.
Yeah, I mean, it's organic, which I think is, can be felt, whether it's really like, whether it's subconscious or not. I think people can feel that.
When you got into this music, you listened to a lot of the MySpace metalcore and the other bands you mentioned earlier. What are you into these days? Like my trajectory with this music has changed so much over the years, from the craziest metalcore like Dillinger Escape Plan to post-hardcore to post-rock to emo. I mean, and I like a lot of these crossover heavy shoegaze bands now, like that kind of stuff. I would say that's my favorite kind of stuff. How about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you by looking at like all of my recent plays, because I'm really bad about thinking about what I like. Um, I mean, honestly, hardcore, like I think currently hardcore is like the best that it's ever been. The new Deaf Heaven is amazing. I love the new Haley Williams and the new Ethel Cain are like battling for my album of the year spot. But I've lately been like really into, there's a band from the UK called Long Goodbye. They're like a metalcore band. There's a band from Portland that's like just a bunch of kids making metalcore called As the Life Leaves Your Eyes. And stuff like that. The new Haywire. There's an album by an artist from Portland named King Yosef called Spire of Fear, also on my album of the year list. And then stuff like Clips, the new Clips record is amazing. So I'm kind of all over the place with my taste. I love pretty much everything, country, you name it.
I've heard a lot of people mention that new Clips record. I think I need to listen to that.
It's really, really special, especially when you like know the lore behind them.
Yeah, my friends were talking about that the other week, and it sounds absolutely fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really awesome. Oh my God, the music videos are so good. It's awesome.
I have to check it out. Also, there's for my fellow nerds out there, there is a Clips remix of a song, and they take music from Final Fantasy VII and put it over a Clips song. Google Vinyl Fantasy Clips, and it's a really good song. So there you go.
Hell yeah.
So Dying Wish, the debut comes out, Fragments of a Bitter Memory. It's October 1st, 2021. So we're mostly out of the pandemic. Things are opening back up. Did you get out there and just tour a lot? I mean, did things happen like pretty quick?
Oh yeah. I think that we were just, and honestly, it hasn't stopped. We're just getting in front of as many audiences as possible. We did Motionless in White, and then we did the Acacia Strain, and then we did Code Orange, and then we did Limp Bizkit, and then we did The Devil Wears Prada, and then we did Lionheart in Europe, and then we did Hatebreed and Counterparts. So it was just like we were just trying to, that was all within like basically a year. We did all of that. And so we were just like, let's just get out there and play shows. And that's always been kind of the method behind this band is like, we're not really like, we're not big on TikTok. We don't really have like a lot of, I don't know how to say it. Basically, we're just, you have to come see it live. And that's how you experience Dying Wish and discover us, has been kind of our method.
Nice. So you actually toured with Limp Bizkit.
We did. Yeah.
How did that get arranged? I had Kat from Scowl on the show, and he actually DM'd her on Instagram and then lined it up that way, which I thought was fascinating. How did it happen for you?
He found a video of us playing on TikTok, which, I just said we're not big on TikTok, but there was one video that went viral that I didn't even know about until he mentioned it to me. He was like, yeah, I saw you guys on TikTok. And I was just like, what? Which one? And he had left a comment too. I was just like, I can't believe I never saw this. But yeah, that was when we were on tour with Motionless in 21. We did like a sideshow at Midnight Hour in LA. And, it was just like the stage was this tall and it's just like in a room that you put together essentially to be a show. And he saw it and was just like, this is really cool. And I guess then reached out to us about being on the tour, and it was like, yes, in a heartbeat.
That's awesome. How long was that tour?
We were only on the second half of it, so probably 2.5, 3 weeks.
How does the band go over at those shows?
It was interesting. I think, we knew that it wasn't necessarily our crowd and that a lot of people were there to see Limp Bizkit, but we had fun with it. And still to this day, people are like, I discovered you on Limp Bizkit when they come up to us at the merch table. So I think, no matter what, it was worth it. But I do think, we earned a couple fans that way.
That's awesome. Yeah, a tour like that you have to do. Like it's like a once in a lifetime thing. And I've gone full circle with Limp Bizkit. I liked them a lot when they first came out. And then I found hardcore and abandoned most new metal. But now I'm 43 again and don't care. So I go back and listen to some of that stuff now. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Yep. Plus, Fred and the band, like, they seem pretty chill these days. Like, they just seem like cool, normal people. How was it on tour? Would you see them? Would you talk to them?
Yeah, I mean, we're playing, like, small, like, arenas, kind of. So, like hockey stadium kind of things. And so, there was a lot of room, but we'd run into them and, chat with them, and they were super down to earth, and I mean, just incredible musicians as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so it seems like in the grand scheme of things, it seems like things have happened pretty fast for the band, especially post-pandemic. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you feel about all of that? Because I don't know, even sometimes with just regular stuff, booking, emails, big show happens, prep, it feels like it can be too much. How does it feel for you now?
Oh, I mean, it's super overwhelming. This has been like the busiest year of my life. And, I feel like my nervous system is shot all the time. I have a hard time sleeping and, just like general anxiety and whatnot. But honestly, it's super rewarding. And so I wouldn't change it for a thing. But it is really crazy. And I have to like kind of remind myself pretty often that like, I am kind of under this microscope. And so I think that's been the hardest thing is like challenging how I'm perceived and like, if I want to be perceived, and like that's kind of been shocking in its own way. But I don't know. It's been very interesting.
How do you protect yourself from that? Because I've experienced this in small bits before where, I don't know, an interview doesn't go well and people dog me on Reddit, or I don't know, someone makes a comment and it hurts my feelings or stuff like that. I'm sure you're getting it to, or maybe the band is getting it to a much, much bigger degree. Do you just avoid comments altogether? Can you read stuff and just take constructive criticism from it? I can. I just avoid stuff. I don't handle it well. I have a lot of anxiety. I have a pretty thin skin. What about you?
I mean, I'm human, but I'm pretty sensitive as well. So I guess it just kind of depends on the comments. I mean, some comments are like disgusting and, very dehumanizing. But then some comments are like, generally like really hurtful. And so I've had to stop seeking it. I used to like habitually be on Reddit and YouTube and reading the comments, and I don't do that anymore because it's not good for me. Even if I see like 25 like raving, amazing comments, one negative is just going to send me on a spiral. So I try not to. And, I have never really been somebody to like bully people online, but it's definitely made me like even more sure that like, I don't really want to be a hater. If I don't like something, it's not for me. That doesn't mean that it's not good or whatever. It's just, it's hard to see and something that I've had to kind of take a step back from. But unfortunately, people comment on my personal stuff or on the band stuff, and it's kind of unavoidable at times.
Yeah. Plus, I think being in the position you are, being a creator, you just wouldn't feel the need to dog somebody online. Like when I was young, I used to be kind of an internet hater, when I was a young kid before I was in bands or any of that stuff, and I would be super critical of everything. But now at this age and creating stuff in various formats, I would never imagine like commenting on something and saying this sucks, or God forbid, talking about someone's appearance or any of that other stuff. So, I mean, when I think of that, I think of really unhappy, shut in adults or like little kids who are going through their hater phase, and hopefully they cycle out of it, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, that makes you think like most people that I know that are creators, they don't hate on other people. Like, if you're doing your thing, then like go off, do your thing. That's great for you. And it makes you think that a lot of people that are putting these things online, they're not creating and they're not outputting things. And so that's their way of contributing to society. And I feel bad for them in a way. But yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I used to be chronically online and I was a little jerk too. But when you grow up and you put yourself in this position, it really does like change how you think about, just people making art in any capacity and doing their thing.
I've read that the band and yourself can be pretty outspoken on different issues and things going on. Is that a thing? Like, have you been outspoken on things and then run into trouble or gotten flack from people online or management or anything like that? Does that happen?
Yeah, never management or anybody like in my corner, like my bandmates or anything like that. Like everyone in my life is so supportive. Online, absolutely, I've received a ton of hate, and that is just normal. I've always been a very passionate and opinionated person, and none of that was going to change if I ever had, more people paying attention to me. I think that if anything, me not continuing to speak up would be disingenuous and would be, kind of a betrayal to who I am and the people who don't have a voice. But yeah, I mean, we've probably not gotten tours because of my very public stances, and I don't care. I just think that when years down the line, I'm not going to feel like I made a mistake by speaking out. So
yeah, like I read a quote from you before in a different article. You said you meet different people and hear different things. It's surprising how understanding they can be if you just have a conversation with them. And that's my approach. Like, I refuse to play the partisan politics game. I'm not going to hate Republicans just because you're a Democrat. I'm not going to hate Democrats just because you're a Republican, vice versa. The division in this country and the games and everything put into place to keep everybody separate, I will not play those games, and I will not play them the way you want me to. So, and I also, to a degree, I also can't just sit here and be silent about it. Like I've talked about on the show how I don't vote, and I'll say, like, if you vote for Democrats or Republicans, you're complicit in this system that is destroying the world and funding a genocide and all that stuff. That's my opinion, everybody. So I'm not going to play the games the way you want me to. And I am going to try to talk to people because if you just talk to people, like you mentioned in this article, you'll find out that you have more in common than not. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, my thought is that if I were to sit down and have a conversation with someone who is a registered Republican and voted for Trump, I have more in common with that person than I do with Joe Biden. So, I think that, like you exactly said, I'm not going to play a part in like the divisiveness of the two-party system like they want us to, because it benefits both sides. And I would rather just be for the people. Now, obviously, that has some contingencies. There are certain people that you can't really necessarily reason with, whether, like Nazis, for example. Like, those people don't necessarily just deserve a conversation. Maybe that's, part of their conditioning and they've never actually known any different. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off. My point is that it's not normal for us as a society to all agree on every single thing. However, we need to have more empathy and understanding for one another. And we need to just, I just think the humanity has just gone away when it comes to us and our neighbors and, the civilians of the world.
Yeah, and whatever the powers that be are doing to brainwash everybody, they're working because, people will be like, who are you voting for in the election? And I'll be like, nobody. And they're like, oh, this is your fault. This is all personally your fault. And I'll be like, oh, it's not like all the guys in Senate and all the warmongers and all the weapons manufacturers, and it's not their fault, it's my fault. Oh, okay. So
yeah, I did get that a lot from friends even after this last election, because I didn't vote for, either Democrat or Republican either. So it's unfortunate,
It is. We're gonna figure. You and I are gonna figure it out one of these days, and people are gonna listen to us.
We'll see.
They have to. The new LP is coming out next week. Flesh Stays Together. I'm excited about this. Many are excited about this. When did you and the band start working on
it? Late last year, realistically. We started demoing stuff for it, and then we were in the studio in February and March. So it's been about a year of this coming together.
Okay. And for a band as busy as yours, like, how do you find the time to even write? Like, I've heard of bands, messing around at sound check and writing, or like, would you take time off and write? How does your band do it?
We take time off. We don't write on the tour or write on tour at all. We just have too much responsibility, and I'm already burned out as it is. So, we just, we take time off and figure out a way to do it. And, I think, a lot of this record was written in the studio this time. We had a couple writing sessions where people would come to my house in Nashville, and, we would sit down and try to write together. But once we got to the studio, it kind of just unfolded where we didn't really use a lot of that stuff, and just kind of came about the way it did.
So wait, you said you didn't use a lot of stuff. Now, did you have stuff written and then went in the studio and ended up not using it? Is that what happened?
Instrumentally, yes. Yeah. Lyrically, kind of how we work, is we write essentially like a guideline of, these are the topics that we want to talk about. With this, we've done this for Flesh and for SOS now. These are the topics we want to talk about. This is the overall theme. This is the tone. This is the vibe. And we just go off of that. And I would say I probably had like 3 or 4 full songs worth of stuff done. I couldn't tell you what got used. It's totally remiss in my brain now. But we pretty much started fresh in the studio once we got there.
What are the topics for Flesh Stays Together? And do you and the band work on those together? Like, what do you just write out different subjects? How does it work?
So that's Pedro and I. Pedro and I collaborate on the lyrics. And so basically, the band just trusts that him and I are going to take care of it. And, we take it and do what we do with it. And then we send it to them and say, let us know if you have any issues. I think the overall tone of the record that we wanted to get was haunting. That was the word that we had talked about a lot, haunting. Obviously, we wanted it to, have some messages about witnessing a genocide. And, I talked about my struggles with, my substance abuse, which is something I haven't necessarily done on any other record. And we just kind of like wrote out a few of these themes. We'd never talked about religion on a record, and there's kind of like an overall theme of that as well. There was a lot of stuff that didn't get used, but everything that we did use was something that we came up with beforehand.
You mentioned your struggle with substance abuse. What happened? Did you end up getting clean or sober?
So I've recognized that I use alcohol as a coping mechanism. And I think also it's because I was raised in a house where alcohol was normalized and also abused. So I'm not like 100% clean and sober, but I don't like, I'm not drinking every day like I used to. I did this record completely sober. I do tours, sober. Have done, I have it under control. I never really thought that, my issue was so deep that I would need to be completely sober. But obviously, like, if it ever gets to that point, I know that I am capable of doing that now, which is good. It's more of like for me, it's fun now and not like I have to do this to survive.
Yeah, I'm curious because, in my house, you did not socialize without alcohol. That's how we were raised. So I've had crippling anxiety since I can remember, since like kindergarten. So when I was young, I found alcohol and drugs, and then I was like, "Oh, I can just do this stuff and feel normal. Cool." And then that continued for a very long time until I had to stop doing it all completely. And that's the way it's been for a while. And now I'm like learning how to live all over again and live like an adult, and deal with anxiety without those crutches. Is that, I see you nodding, is it that way for you too? Do you have a lot of anxiety that you have to deal with, and if so, like, how do you learn to do it without the aid of alcohol? What do you do?
Oh my God. Yeah. Everything you just said struck like such a heavy chord with me. For me, like, anxiety, like, I think that, I overthink, and I think when I drink, it kind of numbs the thoughts or makes me like myself more. And I had the mentality of, people only like me if I'm drinking. People only like me if I'm drunk, because otherwise I'm not fun. I'm too anxious. And, I wouldn't be able to go to a show or play a show if I like didn't have at least a couple drinks. And that was so unhealthy. And, my bandmates were like, this is unacceptable, obviously, as I'm glad that they did. And, a good friend of mine and our manager, Tom, he said, this being a singer is like being an athlete. And, I'm a huge sports fan. And he's like, do you think those guys go out every night before the show and get fucked up and then get fucked up before the show? And I was just like, obviously not. And so, yeah, I did tour sober, and I don't like to drink before shows now. Maybe like a little bit of whiskey just to kind of like loosen me up, but I don't like to make a habit out of it. And I just like to, there's nothing worse than the feeling of like, okay, I need to carve out a space for me to have drinks, because if I don't, then like my entire ritual is fucked up. And I needed to completely change the way that I thought about alcohol for that to happen.
Yeah, yeah, it was such a coping mechanism for so long, so I didn't even realize how bad I had it. But I know what you're saying. Like, I went through that where I was like, oh, I was like the life of the party, or I was the guy who could get you this or that, and now that I'm not that, what if no one likes me? But I've been clean for so long now. I'm like, I don't care if no one likes me. Like, I can't do all that stuff or I'll die. And I'd rather be this me, because this me actually gets stuff done instead of, sleeping 23 hours a day.
Mm-hmm. Good for you, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you. That's the way it's got to be.
Oh wait, I have one more thing to say that actually you just made me think about. I think that I drank because I didn't like myself. Like, so I like saying that, like, I don't know, it's important. Like, I had to learn how to love myself again.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, yes. Yes, that, now you've got me thinking. Yeah. Growing up was not easy because my parents provided for us, but they weren't really around, so I had to kind of grow up alone and figure stuff out by myself. And I was not a popular kid in school, quite the opposite. I dealt with a lot of bullying, I guess. And then once I found my fellow misfits in the hardcore scene, those have been my best friends forever. And that's where I always cycle back to. Everything always comes back to the bands, the people, my friends I made when I was 16. It always cycles back there.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Same. I relate to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Flesh Stays Together, recorded with Will Putney.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes. Now, how long in the studio? Let's say from the first day you show up until we're done tracking. How long?
5.5 weeks.
5.5 weeks.
Yep.
Wow. Do you like stay there the whole time? I know he's got like kind of a place where you can stay sometimes.
Yep. Yeah. Thank God I've become more of a homebody in the last couple years since becoming a touring full time, because otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Yeah, that's a long time. How long do you bring your own equipment? Do you just go there and use his stuff to find tones? How does it work?
Oh my God. Yeah. He has just like literally a wall of amps. And then like every single pedal you can think of. So yeah, everything is in house. I mean, the guys bring their quads to like tone their quad cortexes to the tone that they're creating, but everything is real amps on the record, and it's all stuff that Will has in house.
Yeah, I've seen that wall of heads he has, and I think he can just like switch them on and they're all wired. That's an incredible setup.
Yeah, it's really cool.
How long to get tones? How long strictly to get the tones that we're looking for? Like, or do you do them all in a row, or is it just like, all right, time to record guitars. Let's spend 2 days finding guitar tones. How does that work?
Oh man, yeah, I think they just find all of the tones first, and that could have taken days. Probably, I would say 2 or 3 days to really dial in tones and everything before they actually started tracking.
How is the process for you? I did it recently, and it was one of the most stressful things I've ever been through, because recording is one thing, recording vocals is another thing, blowing out my voice 14 times to get it done. And then the mixing and the mastering is the worst, because I can't do anything. I just have to sit there, and I want to like rip my hair out, and I'm pacing back and forth like a mental patient. Like how was it for you?
Agonizing. Agonizing. Yeah, I hate tracking vocals so much. And, you know, Will was so focused for like the first probably 3.5 weeks we were there, was just writing everything instrumentally, tracking guitars, tracking drums. And then he would come upstairs where the vocal room is and where I would write everything and where I would demo everything. And he would come upstairs and listen to it and be like, this part's good, change this, and this. And then he would leave again. And so that was like every single day for me for weeks was like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, which obviously, you know, is a very important part of writing a record. But I was just like, fuck, I suck. You know what I mean? Like, but once we finally, you know, got to the end and, you know, we're doing all of the doubles and the higher layers and the lows and all of that stuff, I was just like, you know, the best feeling in the world. Like, you know, an entire house has been lifted off of my shoulders.
When you're working on vocals like that, and Will comes in and says like, you know, change this, change this, change this, do you agree most of the time? Because I'm trying to think of myself in that situation. I'm like, what if I'm attached to something? Like, what if I disagree? Does that happen?
There was a couple things I had pushback on. But for the most part, he's usually right. And I think like usually when he comes in is like when I have basically beat a song to death and I'm like, okay, I can't figure out what's wrong here. And then that's when he comes in and he's like, okay, well, this part, you know, and moves stuff around or X-nays things. So, you know, it's, yeah, it's for the best, but, most of the time I'm not attached to it. Or if I am, I'll like say something and he's like, okay, well, it's your song, you know?
Yeah. Well, the record's coming out. Are we excited? Are you excited? I mean, there's already so much crazy stuff going on. You're on tour with Poppy right now, which is huge. You've got a tour coming up with Malevolence and Speed. You've got your headlining tour with Static Dress and Gouge Away. Gouge Away is great. Christina's been on the show. I mean, how can I say this? So much has happened already. It's hard to imagine even more to look forward to.
Yeah. You know what I'm really looking forward to is a vacation, but, yeah, no, yeah, it's a lot. I'm excited for the record to be out, but you know, I it's different, and part of me can't help but be a little like, I just wish it could just be mine for a little bit longer and then put it out into the world. But, I know that we took some risks on this record, and there's some new sounds, and inherently, people are going to feel a way about it, but I am really proud of it. And I think that's what really matters.
What are some of the risks you took, and what are some things we did different with this record?
The risks, we really kind of took out I would say the brighter, happier melodies that kind of Killswitch would, naturally do, where that influence came from. And a lot of the singing is in a lot more minor keys. It's a lot moodier. It's a lot darker. There's some songs that are mostly singing, that people are like, oh, you're selling out. You just want to be a radio band. And it's like, the songs are heavier, but there's just singing over it instead of screaming. And so, yeah, just like trying to do something that not anyone else is really doing at the moment. And so, yeah, I think that the record starts with one of those moments where you're like, wow, nobody really does this. So I hope, be received well. Who knows?
Well, I like it. I mean, I've heard the singles so far. I got the chills during the singing parts, and there's a nice mix of aggression in there as well. So I like it. And you know what? That's enough. We don't need anybody else. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, real though, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and I'm excited to hear the rest. Are you going to get a vacation anytime soon? It doesn't look like it.
I am taking my honeymoon at the end of the year. So yes. During Christmas. Yeah. So we're just going to go do Christmas by ourselves. We're going to go to an island and turn our phones off.
What island, if you don't mind my asking?
Kauai.
Nice. How
Yes.
long?
As long as they'll let us. I'm hoping at least a week. We did a week last year and it was really great. So I'm hoping at least a week. And then we might do part 2 of the honeymoon in Thailand in February. So we'll see.
Oh, nice. When did you get married?
The 5th, September 5th.
Nice. What does your partner do?
He is also in a band. He sings and plays guitar in the Devil Wears Prada.
Ah, okay. Wait, what's his name?
Jeremy.
Oh, sings and plays guitar. Okay. I've had Mike on the show. Okay.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Mike will be here. We're in Milwaukee and he lives here. So Mike will be here tonight. I'm excited.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, he is a very cool person to talk to. When I had him on the show, I had kind of like a mental breakdown earlier in the day, and I was just overwhelmed, and I like deleted all these social media profiles I don't use anymore, and I turned off my phone. It was like one of those days. And then I talked to Mike, and it was like a very soothing conversation, and that snapped me back into reality. So shout out Mike and Devil Wears Prada.
He rocks, yeah.
Yeah. How did you meet your partner? Did you guys play together, or how'd that happen?
Yeah, we supported them on tour in 2022, and we've been inseparable ever since. That's
awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody, Flesh Stays Together will be out by the time you hear this. So I want everybody to purchase it and listen to it and purchase it. And of course, go see Dying Wish, because they're going to be on tour for like the rest of the year. What else do you want to tell the people, Emma? Is there anything we haven't covered?
No. Yeah, just come to a show. We're really proud of the headlining bill we put together. So it's going to be a blast.
That's awesome. Well, Emma, I love the band, and it was great talking to you. Good luck with everything to you and the rest of the band. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.